Jeff Bezos looked me straight in the eye and said, "In 1994, I had a choice. Stay at my $200,000 Wall Street job or start an online bookstore in my garage. Everyone said I was crazy." He paused, took a sip of wine. But I knew something they didn't. I had discovered the Regret Minimization Framework. What he told me next completely changed how I make every major decision in my life. Tonight, I'm sitting across from Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon and one of the richest people who ever lived. We're in an upscale restaurant in Seattle, not far from where it all began. And he's about to share the story behind the story, the mental frameworks and decisions that built a trillion-dollar empire. "Tell me about this Regret Minimization Framework," I said, leaning forward. Bezos smiled, that same smile that's been on countless magazine covers. "It's simple but powerful. When I'm 80 years old, looking back on my life, what will I regret more? Trying and failing, or never trying at all?" And in 1994, I was working at D.E. Shaw, a quantitative hedge fund in New York. Great job, great pay, great people. But I kept reading about this thing called the World Wide Web. Internet usage was growing at 2,300% per year. That's not a typo, 2,300%. He took another sip of wine, his eyes lighting up with the same excitement I imagine he felt 30 years ago. I could see the future, but I was trapped in the present. So I applied the framework. If I stayed at D.E. Shaw and never tried to build an internet company, would I regret it when I was 80? Absolutely. If I tried and failed, would I regret the attempt? No way. So you just quit? Not immediately. First, I had to figure out what to sell online. I made a list of 20 products that could work in e-commerce. Books topped the list. Why books? 3 reasons. First, there are over 3 million books in print, but even the largest physical bookstore could only stock 175,000 titles. Online, I could offer unlimited selection. Second, books are commoditized. A book is the same whether you buy it in New York or Seattle. Third, there were already established distribution networks. The waiter brought our appetizers. Bezos barely glanced at his food before continuing. But the real insight wasn't about books. It was about customer obsession. I realized that in the physical world, you compromise. Limited shelf space, limited selection, high real estate costs. Online, you could be genuinely customer obsessed without those constraints. What does customer obsession actually mean? It means making every decision by asking, what's best for the customer? Not what's best for Amazon, not what's best for shareholders in the short term, but what genuinely helps customers. Can you give me an example? Bezos paused, thinking. 1995, we launched Amazon. I was packing books in my garage with my wife Mackenzie and a handful of employees. A customer ordered a book, but it was damaged during shipping. The book cost $15. Shipping a replacement would cost us $8. Most companies would ask the customer to return the damaged book first. What did you do? We immediately shipped a new book and told the customer to keep the damaged one. $23 total cost for a $15 sale. My CFO at the time thought I was insane. Why did you do it? Because that customer would tell 5 friends about our amazing service. Those 5 friends would each tell 5 more friends. Viral customer acquisition through exceptional experience. That one loss would generate hundreds of dollars in future revenue. And it worked? That customer became one of our most loyal advocates, but more importantly, it established our culture. Every Amazon employee knows, when in doubt, err on the side of the customer. I was fascinated. But how do you scale that philosophy? By hiring people who naturally think that way, and by creating systems that reinforce it. Take our return policy. Most retailers make returns difficult to discourage them. We made returns so easy that customers started buying items just to try them. Wasn't that expensive? Short term, yes. Long term, no. Customers who trusted our return policy bought more items, tried new categories, became more loyal. Their lifetime value far exceeded the cost of returns. The main course arrived. Bezos had ordered salmon, but he was more interested in talking than eating. In 1997, we went public. The stock price went from $18 to $100, then crashed to $6 during the dot-com bubble. Analysts called us Amazon.bomb. They said we'd never make a profit. How did you handle the criticism? I focused on what I could control, customers and long-term thinking. Wall Street wanted quarterly profits. I wanted to build something that would last decades. What kept you going during the dark times? Customer growth. Even when our stock price crashed, our customer base kept growing. Customer satisfaction scores kept improving. I knew we were building something real. When did you know Amazon would become massive? There wasn't one moment, but 1999 was pivotal. We launched Marketplace, allowing third-party sellers on our platform. Suddenly, we weren't just a retailer, we were infrastructure for e-commerce. That seems like a risky decision. Weren't you helping competitors? Bezos laughed. Everyone thought we were crazy. Why help other companies sell on our platform? But we realized something profound. Customers want selection and low prices. If another seller could offer a better price or faster shipping, the customer should have that option. Even if it meant less profit for Amazon, because customer obsession isn't about maximizing short-term revenue, it's about building long-term trust. And trust is the most valuable currency in business. How did Marketplace change Amazon? It transformed us from a company into a platform. Millions of small businesses could now reach global customers through Amazon. We provided the infrastructure, they provided the innovation. Win-win. What about AWS? That seems like a complete pivot. Bezos's eyes lit up. AWS wasn't a pivot. It was a natural evolution. By 2003, we had built incredible internal infrastructure to handle Amazon's scale. We realized other companies needed the same capabilities. But you were a bookstore company. Why get into cloud computing? Remember the framework. What's best for customers? Small startups were spending months building basic web infrastructure instead of focusing on their core business. We could solve that problem. How did you convince investors? I didn't try to convince them. I just started building. We launched EC2 in 2006. Revenue was tiny at first, but usage was growing exponentially. I knew we had something special. AWS now generates more profit than Amazon's retail business. Exactly. But here's what people miss. AWS succeeded because we applied the same customer obsession principles. Low prices, high reliability, constant innovation. We treated developers like customers and gave them superpowers. The waiter refilled our wine glasses. I was curious about Bezos's other ventures. What about Blue Origin? Why space? Bezos set down his glass, his expression becoming more serious. Blue Origin isn't a side project. It's my most important work. Earth is finite. Our energy consumption and population are growing exponentially. Physics is clear. We need to expand beyond Earth. But that seems so far in the future. It's closer than you think. My generation needs to build the infrastructure so future generations can build a space economy. Think of it like the internet. In 1994, most people couldn't imagine e-commerce. Today, it's normal. What's your vision for space? Millions of people living and working in space. Manufacturing moved off-planet to preserve Earth's environment. Space tourism is common as air travel. It sounds like science fiction, but so did online shopping in 1994. Why not focus on Earth's problems first? False choice. We can and must do both. But space development actually helps Earth. New technologies, new materials, new energy sources. The innovations from space exploration benefit everyone. How does Blue Origin relate to your business philosophy? Same principles. Customer obsession. Making space accessible to everyone, not just governments. Long-term thinking. Building reusable rockets that dramatically reduce costs. Operational excellence. Safety is our top priority. What's your timeline? We're already flying paying customers to space. Next decade, we'll have orbital flights. Within 20 years, space tourism will be mainstream. Within 50 years, millions of people will live in space. I was amazed by the scope of his vision. Let's talk about leadership. How did you build Amazon's culture? Culture is what you tolerate. If you tolerate mediocrity, you get mediocrity. If you tolerate customer-hostile behavior, you get a customer-hostile company. How do you maintain standards as you scale? Written principles. Amazon has 16 leadership principles that guide every decision. Customer obsession, ownership, invent and simplify, learn and be curious. These aren't just words on a wall. We hire, promote, and fire based on these principles. Which principle is most important? Customer obsession, obviously, but disagree and commit is crucial for speed. Perfect consensus is the enemy of progress. Once a decision is made, everyone commits fully, even if they initially disagreed. What about failure? How do you handle mistakes? Failure is inevitable when you're inventing. The Fire Phone was a spectacular failure. We lost hundreds of millions, but we learned valuable lessons that helped build Alexa and Echo. How do you turn a failure into learning? Postmortems. After every failure, we ask, what did we learn? What would we do differently? How can we apply these lessons to future projects? Failure is only waste if you don't learn from it. What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs? Bezos paused, considering carefully. First, customer obsession isn't optional. It's everything. If customers love what you do, everything else follows. If they don't, nothing else matters. Second, think long-term. Most of your competition is optimizing for quarterly results. If you optimize for the next decade, you'll win almost every time. Third, embrace failure. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough, but fail fast and learn faster. What about choosing what to work on? Use the Regret Minimization Framework. When you're 80, what will you regret not trying? Life is too short to spend it on things that don't matter. Any specific advice for this generation? This is the most exciting time in human history to be an entrepreneur. AI, space exploration, biotechnology, climate solutions. Massive problems need innovative solutions. Don't just build another app. Build something that matters. What drives you now? Legacy. I want my great-grandchildren to live in a world where clean energy is abundant, where space travel is normal, where technology serves humanity. Money is just a tool for building that future. Do you ever regret leaving Wall Street? Bezos smiled. Never. That's the power of the Regret Minimization Framework. I made the decision based on what I could live with, not what was safe. Final advice? Be bold. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In a rapidly changing world, the only strategy guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. As we finished dinner, Bezos reflected on the journey. People see the success, but they don't see the thousands of small decisions, the daily customer obsession, the long-term thinking. Building something significant takes time, patience, and unwavering focus on what matters. And what matters most? Customers, long-term thinking, and the willingness to be misunderstood for long periods of time. If you have those three things, you can build anything. This evening with Jeff Bezos changed my understanding of entrepreneurship. It's not about having a great idea. It's about relentless execution of principles that put customers first, think decades ahead, and never stop innovating. The Regret Minimization Framework alone is worth the price of dinner. When I'm 80, I won't regret the risks I took, only the ones I didn't take. Don't forget to subscribe and check out the other videos to hear the most private dinner conversations where billionaires reveal their deepest secrets. Which part inspired you the most? Drop it in the comments. Let's figure out how to become billionaires together.